I've been doing fine. I'm not wasting any more time. I live for the fight and the climb. And I think that the pain that's deep inside is what defines. So I won't give up.
So, hello guys. This time we're meeting with Robert. It's from my point of view, it's one of the best shooters in Europe. I have an honor to shoot with him in the Worlds, in one squad. So yeah, so we are picking up some details from him. And recently he visited PRS Finale. I guess it's one of the toughest competitions in the world as of today for precision rifle series. Hi, Robert.
Hi, pleasure being on. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's pleasure for me. So, Robert, just to start a little bit, like from the very beginning, so how did you get in like long range shooting?
I'm fairly new to this, to be honest. I've only been into shooting overall for about 5 or 6 years, I think. So no hunting background, no shooting from when we were a kid, like air guns and stuff. Just started fairly late, and I guess the first kind of contact with precision long range shooting was through, the internet overall. So I figured I want to try this, and I found the closest kind of club or gathering, I'd say, to me that did long range stuff. So I showed up there. I contacted the organizer. I showed up with no gun, just trying to learn stuff. Met Marcus, who you know well from before, and a couple of other guys that have been monumental to my own development in the sport, I'd say. But yeah, I started out just going there, no gun, no rifle, no even ability to get one, because there's some hoops to jump through to get a license and all that in Sweden. So that's how it all began, like 6 years ago, I'd say.
Okay. So, but did you start shooting like long range stuff in the beginning, or because I saw that you are also shooting IPSC and practical shooting also?
Yeah, my first kind of shooting sport was into long range, and then it developed into more IPSC dynamic on the side of that. But precision has always been the main kind of discipline I shoot.
Okay, cool. Interesting to do that, to know that. So, are you a hunter right now?
I am occasionally, very, very rarely right now, because living in the southern part of Sweden, it's not very easy to find hunting grounds and all that. And the competition side of it takes so much time.
Okay. From from how to say, from the also what maybe is interesting that you are also like involved with your work in similar like like in this area also, right?
Oh yeah, sure. I've been working at Spur for about a year now, and that's been a major change. I worked security before this, so going from one end of the industry to a completely different part of it has been quite a change over the last year.
Okay, it should be interesting. It's like
Yeah,
dream for the shooter, I guess.
It's both a dream and a nightmare, because you're always working in one capacity or another. So you can be at a match and you'll get questions from this and that about this and that, and you'll be getting messages, you'll be getting phone calls, you'll be getting, but it's fun. It's fun to get involved with the entire community and be able to give back some to everyone that shoots.
Okay, so what do you do there?
I work as a quality manager. So
Okay.
I do the CMM programming, I do the daily quality checks, I do the follow-ups if something goes wrong. So all of the quality work.
I myself, being from like the biggest part of my career, business career, is from the manufacturing industry, so I really like how to say, I appreciate quality guys, especially when they're involved, when they're involved, really
For
involved.
sure.
So it brings a lot of benefits.
Yeah, and that's an extra aspect of being like in the industry and in the sport. So you care. I'd say you care a bit extra about what you
Mhm.
put out on the market, because you're gonna be answering to the customer straight up with no filters, no computer in between. You're gonna be talking face to face with the guy that bought your stuff.
Okay. Yeah, so I remember also like myself when I had some questions regarding Spur, so what who do you contact? That like the guy you know or like the customer service, like in the internet. So of course you
Absolutely, yeah.
go to the right guy you know.
Yep. I
Maybe it's
mean,
not his area of question.
sure. I mean, it's the easiest path, and I'm always available for questions, so I don't mind at all.
But like the office, the plant, I don't know where you're located, but like it's a big amount of people there.
No, not at all. I
Okay.
think there's 17 of us all together.
Okay.
So both management, quality, production, assembly, everything's. I think we're 17 right now.
Okay. So it's roughly like hands-on approach, everyone. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's no one with one particular task. Everyone's doing a bit of everything.
Okay. Okay. So it's nice to how to say to know better like the guys who you are talking with. So like PRS finale. So it's like in a way for some shooters, especially I guess in Europe, is like some kind of pinnacle of the possibilities to get there,
Yeah.
like to be in this match. So what was your road like to be able to attend this match? Because it's not so like you cannot just pay the money and to register.
No, I mean, it's you being in the industry, you can sort of get in there by being a sponsor. So that's
Mhm.
one possible route. And then also, I've been a couple of consecutive years on the top of PRS here in both Sweden and Scandinavia.
Mhm.
So I have a decent rep for being a top finisher over here, and also didn't do too bad at Worlds. I think I ended 11th at Worlds.
Mhm.
So those were part of the merits that got me cleared for an invite with Shannon and Julie and the guys over at K&M.
Okay. Okay. So, PRS finale. So can you tell like your like the preparation, like how much it took you to prepare? What did you bring? Like, all this logistic part.
Ooh,
Because I
I
guess it
mean,
should be quite similar for like if we are talking about Lithuanian guys, yeah. So like what you need to do to fly from Northern Europe to US to compete in such a big match.
yeah, sure. I mean, let's start with the like logistics of it then, like getting from here to there. Uh, and flying with rifles is always a headache in one or more ways. And this was no exception to that rule. So I had to go from Sweden to Denmark, and Denmark to Germany, and Germany to Atlanta, and then I drove from Atlanta to Tennessee. So it was quite the trip to go, but overall, it's a pain-free process as long as you got clearance with the airlines for flying with rifles.
Mm-hmm.
You only really need one piece of paper from the American ATF, and that's an import permit. Takes a couple of weeks, but no charge, no real pain. Just email a file, and you get it sent back with a signature if you did it all as you should.
Okay. So it's
So
easier than to get into the Sweden.
probably going from another country, yeah. I mean, the US and guns, it kind of goes together, so it makes
Yeah.
sense to be fairly easy. But no, it wasn't too bad, just a couple of transits and a long trip.
Mm-hmm.
I was meant to go with one more guy from Sweden, but he couldn't make it due to COVID restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't allow for a negative test, something, and he had to have follow-up shots, and there was simply not enough time.
Okay. Okay.
So so
Okay.
sadly I had to go on my own. But so that's one thing to know if you're going to want to travel to the US right now. Make sure your COVID stuff is up to par, because they still demand that you're fully vaccinated and all that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this COVID stuff is crazy. Each country has its own like regulation rules and etc. And it's not so easy to
Yeah,
understand everything of that. Okay,
but
so the match it was for 2 days, right?
yeah, it's a 2-day match. I arrived on Thursday, so I had plenty of time to get settled, see the range. I got the grand tour of the entire venue, and it was a huge place. They have it all when it comes to shooting. Maybe not shotgun stuff, but everything else you can imagine, like dynamic shooting wise, they had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's everyone says that like once in a life you need to go to K&M to see it, like what
Yeah,
you done.
I mean, it was equal parts country club meets golf club meets shooting range. You had a huge pond in the middle of it all with a fountain and fishes in the pond and all that. So it was a crazy facility to be sure.
Okay, so you have stayed there?
I stayed with a friend of mine I met at Worlds, Greg Bell.
Okay,
So I think he's the IPRF president in the US right now,
yeah.
and he was kind enough to let me stay in his RV during the weekend.
Okay, so they brought like RV is like camper, yes? Yes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Mhm.
plenty of the shooters had campers or RVs or stayed in their rooftop tents or whatever. So a whole lot of people stayed on
But
the grounds.
they have some kind of accommodation there also or no?
Yeah, they have electrical power and all that for the campers.
Okay, cool. So, the match itself, like I don't know, so you most probably zeroed before the match, right?
Yeah, so Friday everyone had a chance to zero, check their velocities, and also you're able to try off all the props. So you can shoot from the stones, the tires, the cars, the buses, whatever you want to shoot from. So you get to try everything, the movers, yeah, the whole works. You only have, I mean, you have to pay the 1 day range fee to try it out, but everyone gets a chance to shoot the entire facility almost.
Okay.
And when you feel like I'm done, I've got it down, my dopes where it's supposed to be. I've tried the props I want to try. Then you go to the check-in and you get the match book. So you
Ah,
go,
okay.
you don't know the stages before
Oh,
you're done,
okay. Okay. Uh-huh.
but that kind of evens out the playing field. So even if you've never been there before, you get a chance to see how fast the movers move, how this prop feels, how that prop feels. So
Mm,
that's a nice feature to kind of even it out a bit.
okay. So, how many rounds was in the match?
I think we had 205 points available.
Okay. And
Uh,
how many did you bring?
I was able to bring 275 because I shoot a dasher, which is a fairly light round. So flying with ammo, you can only bring 5 kilos of net weight. Uh, but I think 282 or something like that with the load I'm running now is the max I can bring.
Yeah. So going slower helps.
Yeah, I mean going slower helps. You can train more.
Yeah. So,
And the
but like
guys,
in
yeah,
reality, sorry to interrupt you, but in reality, so how many rounds did you fire on Friday?
not as many as I should have.
Mm-hmm.
I should have done a bit more training, a bit more checking of dope and all that, because the targets on Saturday and Sunday were tiny. So even being off like 0.1 mil could send you off the side of the target at times.
Okay. Yeah, but
But yeah, I think I shot like I'd say 30 or 40 rounds, which meant I had another 30 or 40 I could have shot and should have shot probably.
okay. Yeah. So, did there was some changes in the zero between Sweden and US?
No, nothing. Nothing real like that. A tiny bit of changing speed because the
Mhm.
temperature was different. It was, I think, 24 degrees Celsius day one, well, Friday, then day one was rainy and miserable.
Okay.
But nothing really changed for the entire trip.
Yeah, so I have heard already a few podcasts of like top shooters speaking about how they did in the finale,
All right.
PRS finale, and like a lot of guys were complaining about the weather.
I would have preferred having that weather all weekend because I do better in terrible weather than most do apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So
How was it?
I didn't
For us,
I
it
didn't
was
mind the
like
rain.
something extreme, or it's like,
No, I mean, comparing to any match in Norway, it wasn't extreme. It was rainy, sure. Some extra wind, more wind than K&M is known for,
mm-hmm.
but it wasn't really anything terrible. It's just a regular half a day of rain.
What was the winds like? How you
Um,
explain?
on day one, like the rainy portion of the day, it was kind of windy. I'd say how much did I hold? My biggest hold was like a 0.7 at 500, so that's 3 meters a second, 4 maybe on
Yeah,
in the gusts. So
3-4, right?
it wasn't too bad. I mean,
Mhm.
it was just more than K&M is known for because going there, everyone's saying, "Yeah, you're never going to be outside the plate,"
Mhm.
and that did not hold true for the first half of day one.
Mhm.
But for the rest of the match, I'd say you were maybe not inside the plates on all the shots, but you weren't very far off on most shots, even on the longer ranges one.
Okay. So, how did it went? Like, what was the feeling? What was the groove, of the competition?
I mean, it's very different pacing from back home.
Mm-hmm.
So let me paint the picture for you here. I'm the first shooter on day one. It's rainy and everyone's kind of miserable. And we're shooting a mover stage with a bunch of extra targets. So shooting movers isn't very common around here. I've done it maybe twice before going there. Uh, and also, first shooter, you get down, it's a prone stage. So they call the first 6 shooters to get down on a line next to each other. And we're under a tiny roof with a bunch of people crowding in to get out of the rain. Uh, and yeah, first shooter starts shooting from there, and then everyone just consecutively keeps going down the line, and then they change to the next 6 shooters. So that's the first time on a match that I've ever been placed next to another shooter on stage, I think. Because I mean, usually you're up and then you shoot the stage, the next shooter gets on.
Mm-hmm.
So just that kind of threw me off from the first stage because it wasn't the way I'm used to running a match, and being the first shooter, yeah, all that first stage jitters, a bit nervous, yeah, you know how it is. So yeah, it was off to a rough start, but I had an okay day one. I ended up I think 45th on day one, which I was okay with. We had 270 shooters, I think, so I was feeling okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, I don't do very well in the sunshine and nice weather, and that we had day two. So I dropped a whole bunch of points on the first 2 stages on day two, and that set me back to 110 something.
Mm-hmm.
And then every shot you dropped, the point spread was looking like if you drop one shot, you can drop 2 to 5 positions in the score sheet. So it was very tight, no matter where in the positioning you were.
Okay. So, but coming back to the first stage, so if it was like enough time for you for the preparation, or it was quite,
It
let's.
was very stressed, I'd say. I mean, you could probably have asked for a couple of minutes more if you really needed it, but you didn't want to slow down the match because you know how many shooters have to get through the match in that day. But if I were to do it over again, I'd probably like, yeah, can I catch my breath here? Can I take a couple of extra extra breaths and just get into the groove of the match.
Okay.
But easy to say in hindsight, hard to say when you're on the line and everyone's waiting for you to shoot.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Like I know that feeling, especially like I think like in the worlds also. Like is that a little bit like you feel some pressure? Did you knew some guys from the squad before?
No, actually, I knew no one in the squad I ended up in, so that was also, I mean, going in there not knowing anyone in that squad. I don't think I knew anyone in the squad before, and the squad right next to us after was the super squad, so they were busy doing their thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, okay. I had similar feeling in French finale, like the first match we had in Biche in May, I think. So it was very strange to shoot a match where you don't know anyone in the squad.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah. I mean, you're used to
like
knowing everyone you shoot with from back
a
home, and
usual,
then going
usual.
to a new venue, a new surrounding, and new people kind of
Mhm.
throws you off.
Yeah. Even like in the worlds, I think it was a little bit easier because you at least know the names, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there
Yeah.
was at least like, yeah, I've seen this guy on Instagram or whatever before, so we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
kind of start talking about something.
okay. So like also everybody was saying about the finale that like the targets were small.
Yeah, they were small. I did a spreadsheet after,
Mm-hmm.
and the average target size for the entire match, including movers and everything, was 0.44 mils.
Okay, so it's like almost 1.5 MOA, yes?
Yeah, I should translate to about
Al
1.5.
almost, yeah. Mm,
Yeah.
okay.
So yeah, that was the average size, and I think the average distance was about 530 meters.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So longer distance than we're used to from here on average, and smaller targets.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
what was the average target size of world? It was like 1.8 MOA, I think.
I think so, yeah. It was a little bit more than 1.5.
Yeah,
Of course, we
I
had
think.
some tiny target stages, like especially in closer distances, like like 10 centimeters and 200 and like 15 centimeters and 300 and etc. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was
I'm looking at the spreadsheet from Worlds now, and the average target size at Worlds was 1.82 MOA
mm,
at 430 meters. So we
yeah, it
had
was
both significantly smaller targets and a longer average distance here in the US. So
okay.
it was a harder match, everything told.
Okay. So as I understand right now that you are making after the match, you make some kind of analysis how you made, yes?
Yeah, I mean, at least for bigger matches, I usually do a spreadsheet of every target, just checking the sizes and average distances and seeing how hard of a match it was compared to other matches that I felt were hard like years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So both to keep track of this particular match and my perception and ability as a shooter, and if that improves over time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So except skills barricade, have you cleaned some stages?
Yeah, yeah, I cleaned 5 or 6 stages in total, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the feeling going, I'm feeling looking at the match book and after shooting the entire match was like every every one shot was doable. Nothing felt impossible. Like no one's going to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But put together with like the stress of shooting a match and how the positions were laid out and all that made it very difficult. But
Mm-hmm.
no one shot in singled out felt like no, can't do this, won't work.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good course of fire in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Okay. from the stages point of view, like what was the most like I don't know, maybe not to say unexpected, but no, not used to what we are doing in this part of the world.
I'd say I was surprised by the amount of prone or modified prone stages.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually back here in Scandinavia, I'd say you get maybe on a 2-day match, you get 2, maybe 4 prone or prone-ish stages. So a lot of positional stuff instead. And here I think we had 8 stages. There were either prone or modified prone off some kind of prop with bipods.
Okay.
So it was a big portion of stages that were in some kind of prone position.
I think it's something like it's similar. It's similar, I guess, in Lithuania also, that
All
we
right.
are doing quite a lot of prone, but it's also, I guess it will develop into very, very positional, and then it will come back a little bit,
Yeah, I mean,
But
it seems
then
to
you,
have gone that way in the
but
US.
then you are decreasing the target sizes, and
Yeah,
it makes more interesting.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so like when I was in Sweden, I really like the rocks because we don't have them here in Lithuania. It's like
All right.
stupid solid position.
Yeah,
And the rock stage there, as I also understand, it was quite awkward position, right?
yeah. I think we had 3 rock stages. So you had uh, one rock stage where you had like one position. You shot a troop line on the way out and then on the way back. So near to far and far to near. And that was just one position. You got down with like 2 big bags and got very comfortable. It was like shooting prone.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had another rock stage with a lot of movement. So you had 5 different rocks. You could take any position off the rock, but you had to move after 2 shots, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the grand finale, you had a rock mover stage. So you shot 1 round at a 300-yard mover and 1 round at a small square at 560 yards. And then move, do the same again, move, do the same again. So 5 positions in total. And that was also different, like shooting a mover off a bag from a rock. I mean, shooting movers prone, you can kind of get into easy, but shooting movers and being positional as well adds an extra difficulty to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, interesting. Actually, it's we are quite fortunate in Lithuania because we are training for movers. We have like 2 possibilities. One is in the military field where we have this kind of like a ditch at 200 line. So you go inside there with like the IPSC target hanged, and
All right, yeah.
like you are carrying it, and some other guys are shooting. So you can train like running, like walking, and etc.
All
And
right.
in one range, we have also the mover like mechanism where we have like steel target. It's similar like in US.
Very spoiled. I'd love that here as well.
Yeah, yeah, but in other areas, you cannot have everything,
No, no, I know how it is.
Yeah, yeah, but movers are fun actually. Yeah, really
Yeah.
fun. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're always happy when they show up on a match because it's so rare that you get to shoot them. So it's
Mm-hmm.
always fun.
But like I understand, and from the pictures, like E&M is more like a square range, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like a square range with a lot of lanes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you
So
you
what
have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
go
what
for
it
it.
makes like different? Like what kind of the most, let's say, the most unnatural like props you saw there?
I mean, the biggest thing that stood out from the rest was shooting from the inside of a school bus. I guess that's not something you do on every stage. And I love shooting from vehicles in general. So we shot from both the bed of a pickup truck. We shot from the inside of a school bus. We shot from a like skeleton of a helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
So those are always fun. I mean, they add some extra to the match.
Okay, okay. Also, they have some kind of like they call it like connex boxes, these containers, right? Like where they put
Yeah,
the windows and etc.
Yeah, so that basically a big container, like freight container with a bunch of holes cut out on them. But I mean, they're rock solid. It's not very hard to shoot from. So you have like different height positions inside the Connex boxes, and
Mhm.
it's basic positional stuff.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so what was the highlight, like the stage or the highlight of 2 days?
I mean, honestly, the highlight was just being there and meeting all the people, because the community around PRS in the US is amazing. The amount of socializing after shooting on Saturday and Sunday, we had like big banquets and things. So like food after shooting, we were barbecuing both Thursday and Friday, meeting. Yeah, everyone was hanging out around the range. So
Mhm.
just the social aspect of it, I'd say, was the high point for me, at least.
Mhm. Okay.
Getting to meet a lot of the people you met at Worlds, getting to meet some people you spoken to online. Like, yeah, that was definitely the high point for me.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like Mecca for long range precision shooting there in
Yeah, I
you.
mean, for sure, and having all the industry support, and meeting, there were a lot of industry people, like reps from Leopold. You had the MDT guys there. I was there representing Spur. You had Foundation, you had Impact, you had, like, all the guys from the industry over in the US were also present, representing their company, and showing the people their products.
Okay. So they also had some kind of like tents rollout, like with the presentation of products, etc.
No, nothing like that really. They had a huge price table, but
Okay.
no separate tents for like vendors and stuff
Like
like that.
no
Just
exhibition stuff, right?
no exhibitions.
Mm.
Uh,
Okay.
but the price table, I guess, was like a big gun store in itself.
Hmm. Okay. When I checked the results, I think you were the third non-American, like in the standings. Like first guy was like MDT guy from Canada, and
Yeah, that's correct. That was
and it
Ryan.
was yeah, and it was also Rory from Ireland.
Yep. Yeah, we were battling over the weekend. I think I was like 2 points ahead of him day one, and then he was 2 points ahead of me day two instead. So it was a close call.
So what do you think like how to say what is the where the European shooters are lacking the most in that aspect? Like what is the like at least I guess for you when you came back you are I think you were thinking about a lot like you had a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is that to your understanding to your like thinking?
All right. So let me put it like this. So with any sport or hobby, the more people that participate, the bigger the talent pool of that sport or hobby is going to be. So the higher the chance of someone of extraordinary, like, natural talent showing up
Mm-hmm.
to perform. The US has something like, I think the PRS has 12,000 shooters. Don't quote me on this, but around that number. And I'd say, like, here we have maybe 200 active shooters participating in matches. So just looking at how much of a bigger talent pool, like how many more people that could be great they have, they're already way ahead of the entire Europe, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have these amazing opportunities to both train and shoot matches. So I spoke to one guy in my squad over the weekend, and he shot 62 matches this year. That's 62 matches this year, not during his lifetime, not during his career, this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was my seventh match this year. So that kind of puts it all into perspective, seeing how, like, yeah, you may be a great shooter back at home, but
Mm-hmm.
how much do you actually shoot? How much do you actually train? How much do you get out there and shoot stuff?
Yeah.
So I mean, depending on where you live in the US, you're going to be able to shoot 2 matches per weekend year round within like a couple of hours of travel. And you just don't get that in Europe, even if you travel, even if all you want to do is shoot, you're not going to be able to shoot 1 or 2 matches per weekend year round.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's one of the main things that sets the US apart, that they have the opportunities to shoot matches, they have the training facilities, they have land to train on, and just the availability of shooting over there. You just can't quite compare it to what we have over here.
Okay. I guess like when you said the amount of people, it's also some kind of, like traditions and also like the craftsmanship of the sport itself, like the
Yeah,
amount of trainers, the amount of, like you said, ranges, like shooting opportunities. Also, like all major equipment manufacturers are there also, what we are using.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. And I mean, if we have issues with primers here, or if there's a global shortage of primers, the US market is going to be the one being restocked first, because that's the biggest market, no matter what kind of component or what kind of article you're looking at. The US market is the biggest market.
mhm. Okay. Yeah, fair
And,
enough.
and even if they have, I'm guessing at 12,000 shooters in the PRS, how many people shoot guns in the US compared to Europe? It's just an insane number to even compare.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Like the size of the market, like from the market's perspective, is like I guess it's not comparable to anything other like
No, I
worldwide.
mean it. No, I mean if you compare the rest of the world to the US when it comes to purchases of whatever related to firearms, they're still going to be bigger.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. So, have you trained for PRS finale? What was your like training routine?
I mean, this year's been kind of special for me because I had a back surgery in May, so a lot of this year has been spent rehabbing and trying to get back on track in general. So I think this is probably the least I've ever practiced during a year.
Mm-hmm.
But most of my practice since I moved down south here in the southern parts of Sweden has been 22 long rifle, so rimfire stuff, because
Okay.
that's the most suitable for the range we have here.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it's mostly 100 meters on paper, because that's also the easiest available.
Okay. What do you think about like training with rimfire for center fire matches?
Here it makes sense because I can train at different ranges. I can do target transitions. I can do some kind of angular transitions. So not only shoot at one range at one target.
Mm-hmm.
So for my setting here, it makes more sense than shooting a bunch of center fire at one range on one target. It translates, I'd say translates well. The only thing that you don't get at all is the recoil management, which is a big aspect, of course. But like stage planning, you get the timing, you get the all the other aspects out of the training, but you don't get the recoil management.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So, like, how often do you shoot usually? Like during the season?
During the season, I try to shoot at least once, maybe twice a week. Uh, I should dry fire more. I should practice more, but new work and all that's kind of gotten in the way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it's once per week. I think like on Lithuanian standard is it's quite often. I guess
All right.
usually guys here like shoot. I think each second week, like the most.
All right.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
but then I also I don't shoot PRS every week necessarily, since
Okay.
I shoot IPSec as well. So occasionally I'll shoot a day of handgun, I'll shoot a day of rifle or whatever other discipline I also shoot to try to keep up with the skills required there as well.
Okay, but so you train for all the disciplines, or another disciplines is more like for you to, how to say, to, it's like more leisure part.
Yeah, I mean, this year IPSC for sure is taking the back seat, so it's only been like shoot a couple of matches here and there, no real training. But it's a lot of fun to change it up and do something different at times. And I mean, even if you shoot a handgun match, it's going to be beneficial to your precision rifle shooting, just getting the match experience and the mental aspect of shooting as well.
Okay. Yeah, I guess like stage planning, timers, and etc. It's common.
Yeah, I mean, just being used to performing after the beep and being present and handle all the difficulties of shooting, no matter what kind of shooting you're doing.
Okay, okay. Interesting. So also, a lot of guys think, like I specifically put a little bit in the front, the training part, but of course a lot of guys are asking, so like what rifle do you shoot? The most
That
important
age-old
part,
question. Yeah, the most important question. Right now, I shoot obviously the spur chassis. Been since it was in pre-production. I'm biased enough there, but I'm very happy with how I perform with it and how it feels for all the aspects I use it for. What else? I mean, I shoot the right now I shoot the impact precision action with a KS Arms barrel in it, so a Canadian barrel, which is pretty much all I've used since I started shooting. I got a good relationship with the guys making them up in Canada, and never had any bad barrel. Always had great precision from them.
Okay.
And for caliber, I've been shooting a 6-dasher for almost my entire career.
Okay. Scope?
Leopold Mark 5, the 525.
So are you sponsored or you selected it like on purpose?
It was a bit of both. I shoot for the Swedish distributor that happened to have Leopold as well as a product. So I selected being a part of their brand, but didn't select Leopold in particular. But I'm very, very pleased with the end result, because I came from shooting a Minox CP5, and the reticle in the Leopold is pretty much exactly the same. So it was an easy transition, and the glass is great, and I love having the 10 mil turrets over the 15 ones. So it was a trade up for me.
Okay. Like Minox is known for very good glass, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have great glass. The major issue I had with the Minox is probably the turrets being 15 mil per rev. So I was always kind of second guessing myself which actual click I was on, because it's so tight in between the markers.
Okay, okay. So some technical stuff, like, so do you run Spur chassis, right? Do
Yep.
you bed it?
The one I'm shooting right now is not bedded, but I mean, overall, a good bedding is never going to make anything worse. And every chassis, every stock, everything you put a rifle in is going to benefit from being bedded. So that's my take on it. I've helped Håkan bed his rifle, and helped another couple of guys bed their spur chassis. And yeah, you should bed everything if you can.
So Spur has some specific like cuts for that also, right? Like
Yeah,
it's for bedding.
exactly. So you have a what do you call it, like a dovetail cut in the action compartment of the chassis, so you get some mechanical adhesion without having to mess with the finish of the internals. So usually you'd have to go hard with the Dremel just to get your epoxy to stick. So we
The
kind of didn't want to force people to do that, but still be able to bed their chassis and remove the bedding if they wanted to.
okay. So also, I guess I noticed during the Worlds that you were running. I guess it's called this brand build level
Yes.
diode, right, on the ocular.
Yeah, sure. That's a game changer. It's one of my favorite pieces of equipment that I've got the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I installed it also recently. I just, in the beginning, I thought, come on, guys, it's too much.
Yeah,
But then several
but
guys I know installed them. They say, wow, wow, wow. Then I tried
yeah,
myself, and yeah, I must admit that that I agree with you. It's
yeah.
really
I
like,
mean, you can quantify how much better it is because you can see how much faster you get each shot off because you're not looking at the bubble and then double checking and looking at the bubble, and yeah, just that instant feedback of a green light or not makes all the difference to me.
okay. What kind of barrel length you are running?
Right now I'm running a 28-inch barrel, so 71 centimeters, I think.
Okay, yeah, 20H. And the brake?
Running the American Precision Arms Fat Bastard Yen 3, I think it is. The one with ports on the upside.
Mhm. Do you run tuner?
Uh, on a couple of barrels, not my main match barrel right now.
Okay, so 222 rifle is quite set. Okay, so bullet.
Mostly I've been running the 105 hybrids because 105 or 109 hybrids because that's what I've been running for like ages and it never let me down.
Mhm.
Very consistent in BC and very. I mean, it always works. It doesn't care how much you jump it. You don't have to fine tune the loads or anything. Just yeah, find something that works from the start and then shoot that till you trash the barrel.
Okay. Did you find some like differences between 105s and 109s?
I haven't shot the 109s that much yet, so I mostly shoot the 105s. Just very curious about the 109s due to the higher BC and
Mhm.
being able to buck the wind a bit better.
Okay, okay. And like I guess powder is Victa, right?
Yeah, and I shoot both the N150 and I shoot the Bofors powders RP11. So
Okay,
it's the same blend as Norma uses for 203B, and a couple of different brands have their own naming for it. I think it's Reloader 15 and a bunch of different, but it's all the same blend of powder from Bofors.
okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, like in Sweden, you manufacture quite a lot of stuff in this area. So
Yeah, we have it good like that we have both Norma and Avita variant close by.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So 222, that it's quite clear. And do you run like federal or CCI?
I've been running mostly CCI 450s, but I mean, I never noticed a major difference between brands of good primers. I mean, as long as they're federal or they're CCI or they're whatever premium brand, it's all the same or close to.
Have you tried BR4s?
Not in the Dasher. I
Mhm.
think I got a couple of thousand that I ran in my 223, but that was years ago. So no, I mostly have a big old stock that I'm still using of the 450s.
Okay. Like you mentioned also impact action and chaos arms. We have quite, I guess, quite in-depth conversation at the Worlds about that.
Yep.
Maybe you can share, maybe, like what I also talk like with my guys when we are making a selection between like things like chaos arms and impact. So like the biggest difference, like you said, it's a little bit more loose, like the impact one, yes?
Yeah, I mean they're looser. I wouldn't say looser in the tolerances, but it's a
Yeah.
looser fit overall.
Mhm.
So it's been holding up through, I mean, all kinds of weathers and dust and all that with no complaints and no issues.
What, like from your point of view, how you would describe to the new shooter, like what is the biggest differences between 60 degrees and 90 degrees throw?
Honestly, it all comes down to what you're getting yourself used to. It's not faster to run a 60 degree. It's just a different mechanical feeling. Uh, you might have a tiny bit stiffer of a bolt lift on a 60 because you have three lugs and a shorter tangent to move it, but honestly, it's not going to make any difference shooting wise. You can shoot a 90 degree just as quick as a 60.
Mhm. And I guess the speed is not in the reloading part.
No, I mean, if you save a tenth of a second reloading, yeah, it's not going to make a difference in the end. That's not where you make up the time. You make up the time by being efficient, getting into positions.
Mhm. But have you felt that shooting, because now I'm shooting AI, it's still quite fresh action. So I'm feeling that when I have narrow forehand, because I can adjust it with the weights, yes. So
Mhm.
when I have narrow forehand, sometimes when I need to lift the bolt, sometimes it unsettles the gun a little bit. Have you felt the same like with the KS arms, or more or less it was
No,
stable?
I'd say, I mean, no, never felt that it was unsettling anything. No, it's always been a smooth action, both the KS and the impact. I never had any issues with like canting the rifle while
Mhm.
running the bolt.
Okay. From my own experience, like I tried several impacts, like for the, for the like action, how it actions, it's impressive. It's
Yeah,
just it's very impressive.
yeah. I mean, it runs like butter, and it always runs. It doesn't matter how much of the forest you have in the action, it just keeps on running anyway.
Okay. What is the weight of your rig?
Oh, that's a good question. Somewhere in between 10 and 11 kilos is where I found the sweet spot to be, like balance and maneuverability, I guess.
Mhm. Okay. Regarding the accuracy, what is your goal when you are loading your ammo? Of course, yes, you are loading, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my goal is to spend as little time as possible reloading and get the most benefit out of it. So I'm not going to be doing like tons of load testing, tons of seating depth testing. If something shoots like, yeah, sub half MOA, I'll be happy enough, and that's not going to be what's costing me points at a match.
Mm. So
But
it's like,
that's probably the benchmark I aim for. If it shoots half MOA, I'm happy enough, and I'm not going to bother trying
mm,
to make any improvements of that.
okay. So like regarding the load, you say the dasher is quite staying quite stable all the
Yeah,
barrel.
Dasher doesn't care. It's just like throw whatever amount of powder you want the speed to be in there, set the bullet with a decent amount of jump, and then you can shoot it till the barrel's dead.
Decent, you mean measuring in millimeters?
Yep. I mean, I think I jumped mine 2 millimeters.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, so to all of us who doesn't know, it's a lot. Like on, let's say, how to say, on general understanding about the, like, reloading stuff, I guess like last 2 3 years it is coming this new, let's say it's not new actually. I think cartridge manufacturers are doing that for quite a long time already.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at any factory ammo, it's going to be loaded very long away from the lands.
Mm. Yeah, so a lot of guys are jumping quite a lot.
Yeah, I
Hey,
mean,
so
you can probably get a bit of extra accuracy by tuning it closer to the lands, but you're going to be tuning it every 300 rounds and trying to stay in that zone. So I'd rather just have decent enough accuracy and never have to bother about trying testing, spending time on the range doing that.
Mhm.
I'd much rather spend the time I have on the range by actually training and becoming a better shooter. Because we're not doing F class here, we're not doing bench rest, we're not trying to be the best at reloading, we're trying to be the best at shooting the positional stuff, the dynamic stuff that we find funny.
Mm-hmm. Okay, like okay, so the rifle precision is clear. Like, what is your rough accuracy from the positional stuff? You know, like everybody is now shooting craft drills from time to time.
Yeah.
So, like, what, like, I would say, let's say on your like calm day, yeah, not on the match, not in the match environment. How do you think, like, just get down to the prop, make this craft drill? What could be like the precision there on the target?
I mean, I don't think my groups are any better shooting prone than they are shooting positional.
Mm-hmm.
So I can probably shoot as good of a group with the occasional one outside of the group, uh, shooting positional, like standing, kneeling, low kneeling, as I could do prone.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a bunch of targets on my Instagram, or at least in my stories at times, that I put up there. Like, yeah, my groups are from a craft drill are the same as most people shoot from prone.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, so it's quite good benchmark, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I
if you are
mean,
shooting half MOA, then you can move on.
yeah, then that's not the issue.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess like when average size of the target is like 1.5 MOA at the match. So if you are comfortable shooting 1 MOA, you are good to go.
Yeah,
Mhm. Okay.
yeah. I mean, I think we had it was like a couple of targets that were under 1 MOA, like 0.2, 0.25 at the match, but more often than not, you're not being pulled back by the rifle's accuracy. It was mostly being in a poor position or not calling wind well enough.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned the reloading part.
Yeah.
So like, can you just very, very briefly, like, what is your routine right now?
All right. So, well, I run the same routine no matter how many times I reloaded the brass. So it's going to be whenever you get the brass, it's going to go in the annealer. It's going to get lubed. I'll put it in the case feeder of my Dillon 650. I'll run it through a resizer. I'll decap a resizer and then expander mandrel
Mhm.
uh, into the vibration tumbler, so dry tumbling. What else? Then I do the length trimming
Mm-hmm.
on a
Every time.
Giraud, so it does the deburring and chamfering at the same time.
Every time?
Yeah, every time. So annealing and trimming every time as well, just to make sure it's all the same between loads. And then just put a primer in, put powder in, and a bullet, and done.
Mm-hmm.
So
Are you
no
seeing?
cleaning primer pockets, no what else stupid thing can you do, like no lubing the inside of the necks for nothing special, just as few steps as possible to still have.
Do you brush inside of the neck?
I have a die set up on the Dillon that runs a brush through
Okay.
on every,
Mark.
yeah, so it's just an extra, since it does all the same. When you pull the handle, you might as well have an extra brush up there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just a 3D printed little die that I put on the tool head.
Okay. Yeah, it's smart. And I missed one point. Do you see it on the progressive as well?
No, I do my powder on a FX 120 and then I seed on an arbor press.
Ah, okay.
So that's just because because of how I have my reloading room set up. So I have the powder dispenser on a separate bench. So I do the powder dispensing and then seed a bullet while waiting for the next one to fill.
Okay. Yeah, quite actually in I guess like in, not maybe just in Sweden, but I guess in maybe in Europe it's more common to use arbor presses. It's just like
Yeah.
Like what? Okay, have you tried seating on progressive?
Only for like training ammo where I throw the powder on the progressive as well. But I was just due to how I have it set up in the room, it doesn't make sense to do that over on the progressive.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because of throwing charges, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
it's on a bench on a separate wall. So it would be a pain to move it from there to the progressive just to see the bullet.
Yeah. Yeah, and the putting scale on the same table is not a good idea, I guess.
No, we live in a small apartment as well, so we can't really mount stuff to the walls in that way. So it's not the optimal setup uh, as far as rigidity and all that goes.
You're not loading ammo in bedroom, right?
No, but close enough.
Okay. Uh, when we were living in another flat, so I didn't have any like room for that. So I was usually reloading in the kitchen when the kids were sleeping.
Yeah, I mean that's how most people start. I think with like a portable setup on like the kitchen or living room table.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Crazy
Yeah,
to what lengths we are going to still compete in this sport.
yeah, that's to be sure.
Yeah. So I guess also I noticed that you are like somehow involved into organizing rimfire events in Sweden, right?
Yeah, me and two more guys ran one of the qualifiers for 2023.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you are also like you are planning to go?
I haven't decided yet. It's it kind of depends on the planning of US matches and all that.
Mhm.
Because I intend to shoot a couple of matches over in the US next year,
Okay.
and shooting like going to Italy and shooting the Rimfire Worlds would probably be more expensive than going to the US and shoot a good centerfire match.
Okay.
So it's more a matter of can I afford to do both? Which one will benefit me the most as a shooter? Where will I have the most fun?
Mhm. Okay. But you will go for the qualification.
Yeah, I mean we're still gonna be hosting and I'm gonna be shooting some qualifiers. So I'm pretty sure I'll have the option of going at least qualifying.
Mhm. From what I have saw, it's your rimfire rig is almost like the clone of the centerfire
Yeah,
rifle.
yeah, it is. I mean, since that's how I mainly train right now, it makes sense to have as close of a setup as possible to my center fire rifle.
Mhm. So can you also run through a little bit the setup of the rimfire rifle?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's the same chassis, it's the spur chassis, and then you have the Bergara B14R action, and I run a custom barrel on that one to get some extra weight in the rifle.
Mhm.
So I had KS Arms make me a 112 twist rimfire barrel for that one.
Okay. So the main reason to change the barrel is just for the weight?
Yeah, I mean the factory barrel shot great, so that wasn't an issue.
Mhm.
But I just wanted some extra weight in the barrel. I wanted to try if 112 twist was any better, and yeah, and run a tuner straight on the barrel as well instead of having a thread adapter.
Mhm. So 16 versus 12.
It's all the same pretty much. I mean, it might be a tiny bit of difference benefiting the 112 on longer ranges, but with how the main issue of rimfire ammo is how the vertical spread at distance with how the velocities differ.
Mhm.
The extra BC that you might gain from some extra twist isn't going to be the biggest factor into to long range precision with the rimfire.
Mhm. Bergara before rebarreling process and after it, does it like the same ammo?
Yeah, it does. I mean, the standard barrel shot every premium brand fairly well, and the new KS Arms does the same. So yeah, that was never a factor to changing.
Mhm. And have you benefit from having the tuner?
Yeah, that's I mean for rimfire, I'd say always run a tuner because
Mhm,
that's the only thing you can change with the ammo.
mhm.
So you can change brands and try to find something that fits you good and then start with the tuner. You're never gonna make bad ammo great, but you might make good ammo even better.
Okay. So, just one side note. So you're running KSR's barrels, right?
Yep.
But who is doing the chambering?
For the rimfire, Håkan did. Håkan Spiller, my employer.
Mhm.
And for the center fire, mostly it's done by FW Precision. So it's a Swedish gunsmith. It's the guy most people up here use, like the premium Swedish gunsmith, I'd say. So he
I have
caters to
met
most.
I have met Fabian, so I
All
know.
right, okay,
Yeah,
then you know how knowledgeable he is.
yeah, great guy.
Very much so, yeah.
In Lithuania, we don't have any gunsmith like that who can chamber the rifle.
All right.
So yeah, so we are a little bit like, yeah, need to use some external help, foreign help for our
Is that
battle.
one of the reasons you run AI so you can have factory barrels?
I I think it's maybe two reasons. One of the reasons was that this action is like bulletproof,
Yeah, yeah, it's
and
proven.
it's like you can, I don't know, you can run like maybe 20 or 30 barrels through it, and it will just get better with time.
Yeah, I mean, it'll wear in and be even smoother as
Yeah,
time
yeah.
goes
And
on.
another reason, yes, is like up till now we didn't had any possibilities to rebarrel our rifles, so it's
All right.
just easier. I had some also like maybe thoughts and ideas to run like multi-caliber setup, like 2 to 3
Yep.
maybe in the same, like for
Yep.
the trainer and etc. So basically that was the reason to be able to change the barrels more easily, even in the field maybe.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah,
So mainly the biggest focus was on that. Okay.
makes sense.
Uh, a lot of guys especially who are fitting the pre-fits for the rimfire, there is some variation on this. I don't know how to call it, even if it's called like the jump or this freebore area. Have
Yep.
you fiddled something with that, like specifically for the ammo, like the specific chamber, let's say like that?
No, not really. We went with like a general match chamber. I think it's the JGS.
DGS.
Yeah. So a fairly standard chambering.
Mm-hmm.
You can sort of affect the headspace on the Bergara, so you can shim it's a two-piece bolt, so you can shim the bolt head
Mm-hmm.
to change that a bit. But I was lucky enough to have good accuracy from the first try, so I've never bothered with changing that other than like screwing the tuner, a couple of trying some different settings on the tuner, but that's all I've done.
Okay. Okay, good to know. Interesting. Do does any of the guys has sent their rimfire rifles to the like testing facilities, like
Uh,
biathlon guys are doing?
yeah, I'm sure a couple of guys have, but yeah, and it makes sense to test a couple of different batches, lots of ammo,
Mm-hmm.
and buy extra of that batch.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've never had the need to try that. I guess I was just lucky with this barrel being not very picky and running everything okay.
Okay, interesting. Because I have heard like in US that they're using the service quite a lot, and in your part of the world is how to say there are quite a few of these centers, like of
Yeah, I
course
mean,
especially the
you
Lapua.
had biathlon being a big sport here, so there's a couple of centers where you can send your rifle,
Mhm.
and then also you have Lapua and their facilities kind of close by. You have Norma close by,
Mhm.
and a couple of different venues that cater to rimfire specifically, mostly for biathlon. So if you want to really test your ammo and test what's best in the barrel, you can do that for sure. But never had the need myself.
Okay. Do you have some biathlon shooters shooting like precision rifle in 22?
Not currently down here, at least, there might be in different parts of the country, but down here it's developing. It's kind of fresh, so it's mostly many new shooters with like old hunting rifles and stuff trying to get into the sport, which is amazing because I mean we had a small a small match here which brought in 27 shooters, which is big for shooting rimfire in such a desolate part of the country to where the rest of the shooting is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. We are starting, let's say, to make a little bit bigger matches in Lithuania with rimfire. So you know, like 10 stages, one like in one day.
Yep.
So yeah, 100 rounds. So yeah, I think it will get quite popular. It's much
Yeah, I
more
mean,
much more
especially
lower.
now with how expensive centerfire is to shoot.
Yeah. Okay, so just maybe for the end of this conversation, which was really like, you know, a little bit like eye-opening, at least for me. Uh, what do you think, like maybe judging from your own experience, where you started to place like really high on the podium in Sweden? Like what do you think what made the biggest impact for that?
That's a tough question. I've
Like
never. I
it
mean, I
was
kind of started
gradually,
on the.
or just when you really started, it was quite easy.
It's hard to answer because my first match I came in second, so it was kind of like a steep learning curve of training yourself before going to that match and going in sort of on the top. So I've ever since I started shooting, I've kind of been up there placement wise.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that the major development has been how different matches and equipment is now compared to when we started like 5 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So times being shorter, positions being trickier, targets being smaller. So it's mostly keeping up with that development and trying to develop your skills to match what the match directors are throwing at you.
Okay. Yeah, it's fair enough, I guess. But I guess the level also of Swedish shooters in this year it developed quite drastically.
Yeah, I mean the last couple of years it's skyrocketed. So at most bigger matches right now, it's going to be any one of 10 guys that can bring home the win if they have a good enough day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that top heavy where there's one guy winning everything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So now
Okay.
there's a couple of guys, maybe I'd say up to 10 guys that if they have a good day, a good match, they can bring home the win on any of the matches we run up here.
Okay. Do you like if I didn't ask you this question in the beginning, so this US match, what you were doing right now, PRS finale, it was your first match like in US?
No, it was my fourth match in the US PRS series, I think.
Okay.
So I've shot the core accuracy international match down at it's called Altus now in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I've shot once at Pig River in Virginia, and I've been to a PRS match in Canada called the Canadian Sharpshooter Classic.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
And placement wise, how do you think like you are improving or more or less in the same situation?
it's kind of hard to tell since the finale was so different from the other
Yeah.
matches, and Pig River was the last one prior, and that was back pre-COVID. But I think my first match I ended up like 60th place or something like that, and then like 16th and 12th, I think. So gradual improvement on the US matches as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But it all kind of depends on. There's so many more factors to go into it when you're traveling shoot. It depends on how was your trip? Have you slept? Have you did you catch a cold because you went to a different country? Like there's so many new factors to bring into the equation.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. I noticed that also when I was in Sweden, that, because like you can drive around Lithuania in 7 hours, and it was only 7 hours to get from the match locations to Stockholm. So
Yeah, it's a long, very long country like that.
yeah. I felt like shit, after this traveling. I'm not
Yeah.
used to drive so long in the car.
No, I mean usually if you go to a match back at home, you travel for a couple of hours. You have half a day to calm down and get settled at the location, and then you shoot the match, and then you go home. So like traveling, you got the airport being stressful. You got making sure you get your rifle where it's supposed to be. You pick up the rental car. You try to find a hotel. I mean, so many more factors to bring in.
Yeah, especially when you hear those horror stories about airports and guns. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky, very fortunate so far.
mm,
Never really had any issues. Maybe going home from Canada where they tried to take my extra ammo because they didn't think I should fly with ammo. That's the worst. But that sorted itself out.
okay. Okay, Robert, my question box is empty. I don't know. Maybe you want to tell something to Lithuanian shooters.
The only thing I'd say, like, since you're in the startup, maybe a tad more than we are right now, like don't overly focus on the gear. Don't get yourself sucked into like buying everything. Try to actually get out and practice and see what works and doesn't work. Ask shooters that have been doing it for a while and take their advice, at least if you trust them. So find that one or two shooters you feel like, yeah, they know what they're talking about, and take their advice instead of trying to make it all from scratch yourself, because that's going to be very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So avoid a couple of extra mistakes by listening to someone you trust.
Okay, great advice. Okay, so thank you, Robert, a lot for this time, for the spend time. I guess
Thanks for having me.
yeah, there are some other nice things to do on the Friday night. So yeah, best of luck in your shooting career. And like I said, for you Sweden guys, that be prepared because Lithuanians will come.
That's awesome. I look forward to it.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
I'm not
Bye.
wasting any more time. I live for the fight and the climb, and I think that the pain that's deep inside is what defines. So I won't give up, I'm gonna make it to the top. I don't care what's in my way.